What's up guys, welcome to the SQL Made Simple series. In today's video, we'll be discussing the between clause. This is going to be a very good tool for you to filter data within a specified range. And you could use this to filter dates or even numbers. So whether you want to say or you're trying to analyze sales data between a specified date range, or you're trying to look at data between a specified number, when you see give me this data where the value falls between this number and that number, the between clause is exactly what you need. So with the between clause, you're able to do some very powerful filtration with SQL. And without wasting so much time, let's get started. The between clause allows you to efficiently filter data between a specific range. So this could be done with dates or even with numerical values. With the between clause, you're able to efficiently filter this data. Imagine this example. It's a Friday, and before you leave the office, you're expected to do a weekly report. And then you want to look at all transactions that has happened within that week. And let's say Monday was the 1st and Friday being the 5th. So you want to be able to collate all transactions that happen between the 1st of that month and year up until the 5th. So with the between, you're able to specify this date range. That could now be something like, give me all transactions where the date of these transactions fall between the 1st and the 5th of that month and year. This could also work with numbers. You could do something like, get us all the transactions for products that their prices fall between this range and that range. Or get us all transactions where we have quantities between this range and that range. So with the between clause, we're able to do some very powerful filtering in SQL. But let's jump straight to my PG admin so we can see some examples. Alright, now we have just 4 questions to try out the between clause. And I believe by the time we are done with these 4 exercises, we'll be able to start filtering data within a range in SQL like pros. Remember, the whole purpose of this series is to make SQL simple. So now let's jump straight to it. With the very first question here, we are looking at retrieving all orders in the month of July 2023. If you remember, we have a trick we are using here, and we say the very first thing we want to do is to understand what table would be beneficial for us, or what table would hold the data or information that we need to answer this question. Looking at the question we have and the kind of database we have, we can already tell that the table we need is the orders table. Now, after you figure out the table you need to answer your question, or the table where you can get the data you need to answer your question, I said the next thing you want to do is to take a look at the data in that table. And how can we do this? You just write a very simple, or the most simple SQL statement, which is select star from that table. In this case, it is the orders table. Now let's execute this code and see what we have. Now this is everything we have in the orders table. But we are not looking, or we don't need all this information. We only need the orders or the information for where the month is July 2023. Now let's take a look at this data. We can see transactions coming in 2022. We also have transactions in 2023 as well. Like I said, we only need transactions or orders that happened in July 2023. And if you also think about it, this means we don't need all this data. We don't need all of it. We only need data for that specific month and specific year. And when you don't need to look at all your data, you only need to look at a subset of your data that meets a particular condition. What does that mean? Yeah, you got it right. It means you need the where clause to filter the data. So let's start by filtering. We can now see where. Now, what column do we want to filter from? What column are we going to apply our filter on? It is on the order date column, because it's from the order date we can tell when that order was placed. So we can see where the order dates. Now, the dates or our filter condition is not just a single condition. It is a range of values. And in this case, it's a date range. So we need orders that fall between the 1st of July and the 30th of July 2023. So we can go ahead and see where the dates is between. Now, remember from the where statements, we said when you need to filter your dates go in quotes. And we also mentioned that SQL uses a specific date format, year, month, and day. So we have to maintain that. We'll say 2023 07 to represent July, and we say first. And then we say and 2023 07 30th. So let's take a look at our code so far. We are saying select all the columns. Remember, star represents all the columns from the orders table, but we only want to make sure that these orders we are looking at, it is just where the dates fall between the 1st of July and the 30th of July. So let's execute this code and see what we get. And then boom, we get our results. And if you take a look at the dates of the order, they all fall within that specified time frame. And with this, you successfully ran your first filtering for range. So let's look at another example. The question 2 says we should retrieve the name and price of products that is between $1,500 to $2,000. So let's see how that will work. Remember, first thing we want to do is figure out what table we can get this information from. So looking at our database, this will definitely come from the products table. And then I said, when you figure out the table you need, you start by taking a look at the data in that table. So let's take a look at what we have. And we can see all this information, the product ID, the name of the product, the description, and so on. But now, take a look at this product we are seeing. You can see the iPhone X, and what is the price? $699. That is definitely not what we want. We only need products that their prices fall between $1,500 and $2,000. So what does that mean? We need to set a range for these prices. Remember, we don't need to see all these products. We only need products that meet that specified price condition. And when you need to look at a subset of the data that meets a specific condition, it is the where clause. So we see where. And what column are we filtering from? How can we tell the price of the product? It is from the unit price column. Simply say where the unit price. Remember, we are setting a range between 1,500 and 2,000. So we see where the unit price falls between 1,500 and 2,000. Now, let's execute and see what we have so far. I want you to quickly take a look at these results. Does this result satisfy our question? I'm guessing you got that right. But then, this result here does not satisfy our question. Remember, the question says retrieve the names and prices of products that is between that 1,500 and 2,000. And here, what information are we retrieving? We ended up retrieving the product ID, the product's name, the description, the category, the price, and the cost. But we are only expected to retrieve just the name and the price alone. And what we need to do is to modify our select clause and say give us only the product name, comma, and the unit price. Once we use the select clause to specify the columns we want, let's try rerunning and see what we get. And then boom, we get only the product name and the prices of products where their prices fall between 1,500 and 2,000. Looking at the results we have here, we can clearly see that no product here is below or more than that specified range. So how do you feel having filtered or run these two queries? You can already see how all this is coming together. We've been able to see how you can use the select clause, the from clause, the where clause, putting them all together, and now we are also integrating the between clause into our code. Slowly, you're becoming a pro at using SQL and writing very neat and efficient queries. Now let's move on to the third one. This one says we should retrieve the name, email, and phone number of customers born between the year 1975 and 1980. What table can we get this kind of data from? This would definitely come from our customers table, looking at the database we have. And what do we do when we figure out that table? You quickly take a look at what you have in that table. So let's take a look. Now here we have this, we have all this information on our customers, but we don't want to see all these customers. We only need customers that were born between 1975 and 1980. Now, how can we tell, looking at this data, how can we tell when the customer was born? It is from the date of birth column, yeah. So what do? We don't want to see every customer. We only need customers that fall between a specific date of birth. That means we need to filter this data. And how do you filter? Yes, we use the where clause. And what column are we filtering from? How do we know when the customer was born? That is the date of birth column. So this will be where the date of birth falls between. Now let's look at this. Always pay attention to your question. Question says between 1975 and 1980. So I can't just go on and say 1975 and 1980. If I run this, let's see what happens. You can see we are getting an error. So remember, date of birth is a date column. Let's take a look at that again. You can see the date of birth is a date column. So we have to filter it as dates. And we said dates always go in quotes. And remember the format, year, month, and day. Now we need to cover every single day between 1975 and 1980. So that would just simply be 1975, January 1st, and 1980, December 31st. So this should successfully cover every single day within this time period. So let's execute again and see. And here we have these customers that were giving birth within that specified time frame. But does this satisfy our question? Let's take a look at this again. Yeah, you got it right. So it does not satisfy the question. We are only expected to return the names of this customer, their email address, and their phone number. So we just go back and modify our select clause. We see we want to select just the customer name, comma, their email, comma, and lastly, their phone numbers. And when we specify the columns we want, we go ahead and rerun our query and see what we get. And then boom, we are just getting just their names, their email address, and their phone number. So with this, we've been able to successfully answer the third one. Now let's move on to the last one. Question 4 says we should find the cards that expired in January 2025. So we are trying to look at cards that expired in this specified time frame, basically between the 1st and the 31st of January 2025. So where can we get this kind of information from? Looking at the tables we have in our database, this would definitely come from the credit cards table. So we quickly take a look at the data we have in that table. Then we can see all this information, the customer that owns the card number, the expiry date, and the bank that issued the card. Now we want to know those cards that expired in January 2025. So we go ahead and filter our data again, and we see where the card expiry dates, because that's where we can tell when the card is going to expire. So we see where that date falls between 2025 0101, that's January 1st, and 2025 01 31st. So with this, we should be able to successfully cover every single day in the month of January. So with this, we can see we'll definitely get people that their card expired in that time frame, and we have just 4 of them. This is basically how you can filter data that falls within a range. When you have range of data that you want to pick from, just use the between clause. You specify your range and then you're good to go. I believe so far with this series, you've been able to build your confidence and build your SQL toolkit. And that's a wrap on the between clause. Now that you know how to filter data like a pro within a range, in the next video, we'll be combining the AND and the OR operators to help us combine multiple filter conditions. And by the time we add this to our toolkit, you start becoming a very, very powerful SQL user. So just like we've done for the previous videos, we'll be dropping an exercise for you to try. You can find this exercise in the description of this video. So do well to try them and drop your codes in the comment section, and we'll talk about it there. So see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in the next one.